Liz Ward, here we are at ATE, another year at ATE, and you're still the CEO of Australian Tourism Data Warehouse. A lot of people don't understand what Australian Tourism Data Warehouse means. We've talked about that in the past, but I know lots of exciting things have been happening in your space, and the power of technology and the power of the sort of data you distribute into all sorts of places has become much more important. So tell me what's hot, what's new, what's exciting, and what's happening in ATDW.
Well, hopefully, John, more of the industry do understand what ATDW is now and what we do, that we are the national database and it's a distributable platform that all of the Australian industry can participate in. So there's 36,000 listings of accommodation and tours and destinations and events and journeys, lots of categories, really high quality listings, good content, big images, video content that we then publish out on all of the STO's websites, state tourism websites, Tourism Australia's websites and others. There's about 50 regional tourism websites that are now picking it up. So that's what we do, and when we went out and asked industry earlier this year about how they felt about ATDW, was it giving them value, the resounding view was that yes it is and we want to see it continue, but how on earth are you going to do that, ATDW, given that the technology environment is changing so much?
Absolutely, But I mean, in terms of, you're talking about who you distribute this data to, I'm involved in some businesses where we're involved with up to 30,000 OTAs around the world, online travel agencies. Can they access this data as well, destination data?
They absolutely can.
Good.
Yeah, they absolutely can, and it's a great comp to their wholesale product listings that they sell, for example. And what we notice year on year is the growing interest from OTAs who come round to the ATDW booth here and say, well, what is this thing and how can we access it? And each year the appetite grows stronger. And in fact, our destination, attractions and events data, they are three of our top categories for distribution.
So in terms of, just wait for this massive announcement over our heads. In terms of the way the data is used and the volume of people who's using it, do you monitor how much it's being used? So let's say a video about, I don't know, the Gold Coast, or some information about tourist attractions. Do you know how much that's being used?
Yeah, we do, John. We know to a large extent the usage. We can't track every single distribution channel. For example, Google Maps comes and picks up a data feed. We can't get it. We can't get the count on it. But it's just good to know they still want it. You know, that's a value test. But what we can know is that at a minimum on a monthly basis that 5 million times one of these listings is seen by a consumer, either from the international marketplace.
Say that again, on a monthly basis?
Over 5 million of these listings are exposed. So off a base of 36,000 we can count that 5 million times somebody is looking at one of those listings. And that's the minimal level. Sometimes it's higher than that depending on the season. But what we are doing, one of the exciting improvements coming through ATDW is going to be improved tracking. So what we want to be able to do is actually get a read on individual elements of that listing and precisely the IP address so that we know exactly what country it's coming from.
Who they are, what they are.
Yeah, we've been collecting the data, that general data, for many years now, and that's useful to a point. It's useful as a value measure for an individual operator because they can go, well, which websites are actually getting me some exposure and generating leads for me, but we need to go further than that. And I think the opportunity then that comes out of that is that those statistics being then wrapped into broader statistical research exercises, whether that's by TRA or Tourism Australia, STOs, RTOs, to actually understand better what the consumer is looking at when. And I think that's going to be a new value proposition out of ATDW as big data concepts are adopted into the tourism sector.
Now I know the larger end of town or the bigger operators embraced ATDW very early on, and this industry is very fragmented and made generally up of many small operators. So how do smaller operators get involved, and are they getting involved more and more?
They are. I think our coverage across regions, like all regions are participating in ATDW with products in there, and they hear about it in different ways. So if their regional tourism organisation is a publisher of ATDW, and we've got about 50 publishers now that are regional organisations, that really helps get the message out to those smaller businesses in regions, because the RTO is saying, hey, get onto ATDW because we'll publish you from there rather than running a second database.
Okay.
So we find the closer to the coalface, if you like, that the distributor is, the more traction we get, and the more the message gets out to operators that, you know, in most cases this is a free platform, free distribution opportunity for them.
Okay, so if I'm a B&B operator on the Sunshine Coast, it doesn't cost me anything?
Well, that's a bit of a nuance. There are a couple of states, including Victoria and Queensland, that do have a fee in place. But, you know, that comes with a value proposition, and it's worked in with RTO partnerships. But in all of the other states, it is free to access ATDW. Either way, even in Victoria and Queensland, it's a really low rate to get access.
But let's say I've paid my few $100 or whatever it is, and I'm a small operator. How do I know I've had value for money? How do I know if anybody's used it and I've created any business as a result?
You get a report that says these are the websites and these are the number of times that your product's been seen. Then if you're savvy enough to be using your Google Analytics account, you go, hey, I'm getting leads in, and you've also provided the right sort of link, whether it's to a booking page on your website or elsewhere, or you're participating in the Tourism Exchange Australia booking solution, and then that gives direct booking capability as well.
Well, Liz, thanks for the time today.
Pleasure.
What amazes me about ATDW is that, how long has it been going now?
2001, that's
2001, 13 years ago, Australia took an initiative which other tourism organisations haven't even taken yet around the world.
Interestingly, I was at an international conference at the beginning of the year, and there are other countries now looking for a similar solution. So it's starting to happen, but Queensland's Queensland and all the states, we're in Queensland, well
They've
ahead of the curve.
indoctrinated you, that's what it is. You see.
I've drunken the Queensland Kool-Aid a long time ago, John. So that's great. We're ahead of the curve. We've got this asset. It's the content that's the asset. So whilst Google changes its algorithm and social media and video becomes so important, we look after this base and get it right.
And you're spot on. I mean, at the end of the day, we talk about Google Analytics, the algorithms, you know, all this sort of stuff. And content is king as long as you've got distribution. Content is great.
Is emperor. Content
absolutely.
Is king. So
and that's exactly our business model as well. So, Liz, thank you for your time today, and onward and upwards for ATDW.
You're right, John.
Thank you.
Thanks.